But you had said that there are some guys that are a little better suited for that role. And that's going to lead me to my first guy here, where in all seriousness, the closer we get to the draft, I think we're 5 days away now as we're sitting here recording this. I'm getting to the point where I kind of want to trade up for this guy. And normally I'm not there for safeties. Normally I'm no safeties in round one. You know, you can find them later. But Lewis Cine from Georgia is the missing piece to our defense. Lewis Cine from Georgia is the final just catalyst that would make everything else work in such beautiful harmony that I can't even explain it. I'm going to try to over these next couple of minutes, but if the Jets get an edge defender at 4 and they get a wide receiver at 10 and they have both of their second round picks and Lewis Cine gets past, say, 25, again, not trying to think of any specific team, but that around range between 25 to 32, I'm calling those teams. And I'm seeing what it would take to get up from 35 to see if the Jets could get back into round one and make sure they secure this guy on the back end of their defense. Because if they do, holy crap, is the Jets defense about to be really good. Lewis Cine is, like I was just talking about with Daxton Hill, where if you're going to be that deep safety and you're going to have to track balls to the edge and be that last line of defense, Lewis Cine, no hyperbole, is one of the best at being in a deep alignment and coming downhill and tracking ball carriers that I have ever seen in my life. It's mind-blowing how fast he gets from that deep alignment to the edge or to the inside or wherever the ball was going. He's never overrunning the play. His angles are perfect. His closing speed is insane. And then when he gets there and he meets the ball carrier, it's like they get hit by a freaking ice cream truck. He is such a hard hitter. He will stop you in your tracks. You don't gain extra yards. You don't fight for the last couple of yards and turn a short gain into a 4-yard gain with Lewis Cine. You go down the second he touches you. And then you factor in his coverage ability. He's got great range. His eyes on the back end are great. His closing speed is awesome. The same closing speed downhill. He's able to do it in other directions. His ball skills are great. He's long. He's big. His ability to track the ball in the air and see where it's flying and make a play on it from that angle, awesome. He can match up in man on tight ends and been really good at that in the past. I think he could match up against some slot receivers, although it wouldn't be the best thing to his game. I think he's capable of doing it. And most importantly, and this is the last piece that makes him such a perfect fit and why I really think he is the missing piece of this defense. Like I was saying before, ideally, you're going to want your free safety in this scheme and a guy who can drop down and play strong safety, use a little more better in the box player. The Jets have that box player with Jordan Whitehead. They need that deep guy to go with him. However, offenses are smart. Offenses are not going to sit there and say, okay, we're just going to let you keep that guy deep as the deep safety and have this guy here as the strong safety. We're going to find a matchup for him. We're either going to put someone in that spot that strong safety is going to be too hard to cover, or we're going to come out in one formation and show a strength of a formation to a particular side of the field. And we're going to run a shift and we're going to change our offensive formation before the snap. And we're going to line up in something different with a different strength and a different alignment that's going to cause the defense to be unbalanced. And it's going to cause the defense to have to rotate and shift to match that alignment change from the offense. And when that happens, sometimes safeties have to switch roles. Sometimes just the way the coverage changes, you're going to see the guy who is down in the box is now going to rotate and he's going to go deep. And the guy who is deep is now going to come down and he's going to be in the box. You can get into trouble sometimes when you have guys that are very, very defined as a free safety and a strong safety, having those roles switched. Because now you're going to have a guy deep that may not be as good in deep coverage that you can exploit over the top, or you're going to have a guy in the box that isn't good against the run, where you're going to have to potentially worry about giving up the edge because your force player isn't as good. You put Lewis Cine in this defense, and you take all of that away. Because Jordan Whitehead is perfectly capable of being a deep safety. And again, it's not the best thing he's good at. He's not the thing he's best at, but he's certainly not a liability. He certainly can do it. And a few times a game where if there's going to be a rotation and he's got to go deep, he'll be just fine. And you put Lewis Cine in the box, you don't got to worry about your run game. You don't got to worry about your force to the edge. You don't got to worry about being a liability against a tight end or a matchup or having a guy be able to box out your smaller safety. None of that. He could do whatever you need of him to ask in this defense as a safety in either spot. And so could Jordan Whitehead. So now you have these two versatile defenders at safety that can both line up anywhere, depending on however the offense wants to line up. And they're both capable of filling each other's role. You're never going to get caught out of position. And you have another guy on top of Jordan Whitehead, on top of Quincy Williams, on top of CJ Mosley. That's an enforcer in your defense that will come up and smack you in the mouth and make you remember going over the middle is a bad idea. And you're going to have receivers drop some passes because they're scared of Lewis Cine. They're going to be hearing footsteps when they're having to run that 3rd and 7 slant. And they know Lewis Cine is playing robber as a safety and he's coming downhill to meet him over the middle of the field. They're going to know. So you have another guy that factors in as an enforcer. You have another guy that factors in on coverage. You have another guy that factors in on, run game and force player to the edge and coming downhill and all of that. And he's going to be last line of defense, not give up touchdowns. Good luck. That's not happening against Lewis Cine. I am really, 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 really considering making him my safety 1 over Kyle Hamilton. Just because I think Hamilton's bold. Yes. Hamilton's instincts are better. I think outright range in terms of how much ground they can cover, I think it's similar. I think Hamilton's a lot bigger and he's a longer strider. His speed may not be exactly the same as Lewis Cine, but it allows him to cover ground well, and his instincts make up for that. But I'm looking at Lewis Cine's potential, and I think he could be Derwin James. And if you don't want Derwin James on your team, something's wrong with you.
Yeah, I mean, the possibilities with Cine are strong and vast. A lot of what you're saying at the end there with rotation also strengthens the point for Daxton Hill also.
True.
But we'll stay on Cine for now.
But Daxton Hill as a force player in the run game is a lot more concerning than Lewis Cine.
Yes, that's also true. Not many people can do what Cine can deliver the message that Cine can. He's an absolute blur out there. He can sometimes just take over a game with his
dominated
ability.
The national championship against Alabama.
God.
Dominated.
The amount of plays that he made in that game, it's hard to really say that a linebacker or not that a safety can have that much of an impact on a game. But I can firmly say that Cine can have that impact on a game. So now it's more of an issue of where does he go? Is he a late 1st round pick? I think so. I don't think he makes it to the 2nd round at all.
I'd be really surprised if he does, which is why I'd consider trading up for him.
I would consider it too. But then there's drawbacks to that as well. Now, if we're trading up, we'll probably have to give up our other 2nd round pick. Probably both our 2nd round picks.
I think I'd be okay with that. Honestly, I really think, like I said, I think he is the missing piece of this defense. I think he is the last cog that is just makes everybody else better. You're going to have a guy that's going to help your corners because he's going to be able to play deep in coverage. It's going to help your run game because he's able to come downhill. You're going to give up fewer explosive plays because your last line of defense isn't missing tackles. You're not going to have a guy like Ashton Davis who's going to come to the edge, and you're going to have guys be able to shake him in space and gain extra yards down the field. That's gone. He does so much for your defense that also helps the players around him, as well as opening him up himself to make plays. I love the fit so much. It would make it worth trading up for me. That's what really signs and seals this for me, is that Lewis Cine in our defense for what we would ask him to do, I think is better than just Lewis Cine as a cover 2 safety. And so that's why, to me, it's worth giving up that extra 2nd rounder to make sure you go and get him, because I think Lewis Cine could be better for the Jets defense than, say, Nick Cross, who's another guy we'll talk about, and a linebacker you want to fill in, say, a Christian Harris. Yeah. I think Lewis Cine himself is going to do more for the Jets defense than Nick Cross and Christian Harris would put together.
Yeah. I mean, last year we barely had anything at safety. So the vast difference between what we had in 2021 and what Cine and Whitehead can bring are going to be so vastly different.
Could be the best safety duo in the NFL.
They really could be.
Like that's the type of potential they would have.
I mean, people think that they don't value the secondary. But as you've pointed out from time and time again, we need studs at all levels, at every position, from safety to cornerback to linebacker to edge to interior. We need studs everywhere. So we can't just kick this can down the road. We need this stud now, because right now it's just Whitehead and Joyner as our starters. I don't think we can trust Joyner to be.
No, he will get picked on so fast.
I mean, even though his best position is probably as a free safety, we haven't seen him play in an entire year. And he's old. He's an older player as well. So
you haven't seen
the
him
longevity
play free safety for longer than that.
Yeah. So there's a lot of question marks there. And this is a position that we need to shore up, whether it's trading back into the first or early second round. We can't let this position sit too long on draft night.
No, I don't think so either. I think one of the second round picks that you're going to spend is likely to be used on a safety anyway. So that's another reason for me where it makes sense to trade up, because the gap between Lewis Cine and Jaquan Brisker is pretty big for me. The gap between Lewis Cine and Daxton Hill is decently big for me. And this is just my rankings and how I personally see it. But there is a cutoff for me where I'm looking at Lewis Cine as a top 20 player. I think Kyle Hamilton's in very similar order, top 15 to 20. I'm looking at Daxton Hill and Brisker as early second round guys. And there's, again, doesn't sound like there's that big of a gap, but the difference between a first round player and a second round player is a difference. And so if I'm going to be taking Brisker at 35 and I'm not getting Travis Jones at 38, there's another, hole where you'd have to find who are you going to take with that other second round pick. I just don't see any combination of players being better than just getting Lewis Cine.